records her classes. So there's supposed to be I hope it's recording. It's supposed to ask me if I'm recording the. I don't know why it's not asking that. Okay. Well, anyway, go ahead and pull up this. This is the first time I've been in this room, and I don't know when, so I don't know how this works. They used a different type of paint on the wall for this system, so I don't know how it's going to work. Yes, ma'am. What's your last name?
Hubert.
Okay. Pull that back up. Hubert?
Yes.
Okay. So if you checked your email, you know that you got some emails from me. And if you didn't, you need to get in the habit of checking your emails, especially the day before classes start. Anyway, I sent this email out on the 7th. And no, didn't send it out on the 7th. I don't even know what that date is. But I think I sent it out like a couple of days ago. Trying to see the date on it. They don't even have a date. The 6th. I sent it out on the 6th, whatever day that is. And it just gives you a little bit of introduction to the class, gives you a syllabus. I'm not going to go over the syllabus because pretty much it's worthless. The only thing I will cover is the last page. And the last page is the most important because the last page gives you an outline of the class. Now, in 103, I change the sequence. And let me show you what I changed. And you may need to make a note of this, especially for those people that like to go home and do homework and read ahead and all that stuff. There's the outline. Of course, I can't pull it up because it's got it. There it is right there. So you need to make a note. And the note is that we're going to be doing Unit 3 first. So you need to change that to Unit 1. And probability is Unit 2. Managing your money is Unit 3. Oops. And Unit 1 is Unit 4. Hopefully we will not get to it because I don't like it. And I spend more time on the first 3. So if you're in Math 103, whether it's conventional class or whether it's the online class, I'm changing the syllabus, the outline, and it as follows. I wish I could take it and copy and paste it, but the way they've got these syllabi, it's almost impossible to do that because if you do it, if you take Unit 3 and put it up here where Unit 4 is, it doesn't put it in the same place, it puts it beside it, and it's just a cluster, and I just don't feel like fooling with it. So what I do is I just go in and change it. I do this with all my 103s, and the reason is I teach 120 also. 2 of y'all have taken my 120, or a couple of y'all have taken it, and the first 2 units in 120 is statistics and probability. So for my 120 students, you just have to use your notebook from last semester, and that's why I do that, and vice versa. If you're in my 103 and you take the 120, all you have to do is use your old notebook. What's your last name? Flippin. Okay. I think everybody's here now. There we go. Yep, everybody's here. And we got a couple of extras. So that's great. Now, if anybody added today, it usually takes 24 hours for this to update. So that's probably why you're not on it. And as long as you're here, everything's fine. But as far as the roll goes, everybody's here, so I don't have to go back to that. All right, back to what we were talking about. So, how many weeks are we in this class? 14, Hubert. That's right, class. So what I want everybody to do is take out your calendars on your phone or on your, take them out right now because we got to do this. I have to do this because Tri-County Tech believes that y'all are not able to do this, so I have to tell y'all how to do this. To put a tentative schedule in your calendar, and we have 14 weeks and 4 units. Okay, so what do you think you do to figure out how much time we spend on each unit? Wow, it's a miracle. Sign this lady up. She's ready for, what is it called? Gifted and talented. Because Tri-County Tech believes that y'all ain't smart enough to figure that out. So I have to cover this. I'm supposed to give y'all a handout with the dates on it. But I ain't doing that. I mean, I'm barely covering this. And the reason I'm covering this is because I'll get a bad email saying, Hubert, you need to cover this. Yeah, you need to cover this with an adult college class. Anyway, so the first 2.5 weeks, because 14 divided by 4 is 2.5. So I want everybody to count 2.5 weeks and put tentative date for the Unit 1 test. So when is that? So everybody knows they're on the same sheet of music. That'd be 2 weeks from today, and then Monday and Wednesday of the next week. So what is that? I'm sorry, speak up in here.
25th.
Huh?
25th.
25th. So for those that still ain't figured it out, the 25th is going to be a tentative date. Now, does that mean that Hubert's going to have a test on the 25th and everybody's supposed to spaz out? No. I do things different in my class, all right? I'm doing this because of the bureaucrats that we have at Tri-County Tech now, which we used to not have 5 years ago, all right? This is a bureaucratic bullcrap that I have to do. So when I get ready to put a test online, I tell you, but this is for y'all, for the bureaucrats that I have to go over this for, all right? The tentative. So count 2.5 weeks from there. So go another half a week, which will be the next Monday, and then 2 more weeks. What day is that? 13th, February 13th. Write that down. That's a tentative date for the Unit 2 test, and so on. So go ahead and do the last 2. And you know what? You can do that same thing with your other classes too. Sometimes I'm very sarcastic. When it comes to bureaucratic bullcrap, I'm very sarcastic because I'm not a bureaucrat. I can't stand bureaucracy. And the last 5 years at Tri-County Tech, we've been covered up in it, right? Somebody found that out this week, right? Got a man back here, all he needs to do is take 2 classes, pay it out of pocket, but it took you how long to get in the system?
I was already in the system.
But it was a wrong semester.
Yeah.
And it took them a week to change it to the right semester. So before it'd take you 5 minutes, go down to student records, they'd flip you over and boom, that'd be it. But now it takes a week to change a semester. So anyway, so Unit 1 and Unit 2. Let me go ahead and tell you this. Unit 1, the first chapter, Chapter 5, is all reading. So some of you that want to get ahead of things, go ahead and read. Read all of Chapter 5. Online class, read all of Chapter 5. Next week, we will start going over Chapter 5. Well, what are we going to do this week? We're going to go over classroom logistics. We're going to go over the way I do things. We're going to go over My Labs Plus. Also, I hate this book. I hate it, okay? I despise it. I loathe it because it is the dummiest down book I think I've ever had the misfortune of using. I mean, in Math 120, they call things by their mathematical terms. Not in this book. This book, you ain't got sense enough to know what those terms mean. This book dummies it down too much. And I really don't like that. In Math 120, you learn about the empirical rule. In this book, they don't call it the empirical rule. They call it the 99.766 68-21 rule. Okay, that's the type of thinking that we're talking about. And I just really don't think that it needs to be taken down that much. Empirical, all you even learn how to do is spell it. The rule is still the same, but they don't want to call it the empirical rule because they don't think that you have sense enough to know how to spell empirical or learn it or memorize it. So, and there's other instances in this book to where they go a little bit to the extreme on simplification. And now why does that bother me? Well, some of you are in business. Some of you have to take 103, some of you in nursing. And when you are in nursing, it's kind of like psychology. You have to know how to do statistics. Walking into a director's meeting or a department's meeting where you're given a report or you have to listen to a report, they're not going to use the dummy down terms. They're going to use the terms that are statistical. They're going to use the terms that have to deal with statistics and probability. And you go up there and say, well, is that the 99-24 rule? They're going to look at you like you're an idiot. And then you're going to be embarrassed. So there's a place where you can use layman's terms, but that is an instruction not to put in a title of a book. But that's just my own opinion. So in Unit 1, I want everybody to go ahead and start reading Chapter 5. That's blanketed. The 80% of your Unit 1 test is going to come from Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is the mathematical portion of the Unit 1. So 80% of your first unit test is going to come from Chapter 6. Chapter 5 is terminology, vocabulary, and next Monday, I will spend one class, Monday, I will spend it on Chapter 5, and Wednesday, Chapter 5, hitting the hot topics of the chapter. I don't cover census, I cover statistics. I don't cover the ordinal rule, I cover the random variable rule. There's some things I don't cover, and there's no sense in you spending a lot of time dwelling on things that I'm not going to put on the test. Okay? So I try to cut it down to, I'm a bare bones teacher. I go straight to the stuff that you're going to see in another class, that you're going to see in another setting. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on things that you're never going to see. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on things that you already know of. Everybody knows what a census is. A census is something that's taken every so often, every 10 years, I think. And everybody knows what that is. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Versus things that you don't know about that you will see in a director's meeting or a marketing meeting or a division meeting or whatever. And they love statistics. All right? They love probability and statistics because it is a way to predict what's going to happen next year. All right. So I'm very bare bones that. So I want everybody to go ahead and make those changes on the units. I want you to go ahead and put them in your calendar, and I want you to go ahead and start reading Chapter 5. Okay. So that takes care of the syllabus. Now, the other handouts I sent them out today. I also gave y'all My Labs Plus. Let me go ahead and pull that up. Now, of course, some of you may not know this, but I was the one that brought Course Compass and My Labs Plus onto the campus back in 1997, I think, somewhere around there. Little diskettes you put in the computer and gave you problems, and then it morphed into a website back around 2002, 2003. Now it's called My Labs Plus. The only difference between My Labs Plus and Course Compass is Course Compass you enroll yourself. My Labs Plus, the school has already enrolled you. Now, hopefully you can follow this and you can get logged on. I don't know, because they have taken something that is simple and went through Blackboard and totally screwed it up. I like to tell students to go ahead and try the My Labs Plus right here, tctcmylabsplus.com, and try to go through that. You do need a access code, which is with your book. Now there's 3 ways to buy the access code. One is with your book. And if you want to buy the book, that's fine. You can buy a used book, you can borrow a book, you can share a book, or you can buy a brand new book. But the brand new book comes with the access code. All right. You can buy the access code in the bookstore, but the bookstore never orders enough. Never orders enough. Every semester, 20 of my students go up there and they got 18 MyLab Plus access codes. Yes.
I'm gonna go ahead and throw out there for everybody that the book and the access code is only $20 more than just the access.
Yes,
code.
there's only like a $20 difference. And if you don't want the book, or you borrowing a book, or you're sharing a book, or you stole a book, or whatever the case may be, then just get your access code online. Okay, and it's about $20 cheaper online than it is in the bookstore. So that's your 3 options. So what do you need to get on MyLabs Plus? You need access code. That's the only thing you need. The access code can be bought 3 different ways. The book, a new book, bookstore, or online. And, you know, when you get online, when you get on getting started and you follow along, you go to www.tctc.mylabsplus.com, right there on number 1. Then it's going to say, are you a new user? Or are you a returning student? Now, some of y'all had me last semester. Some of you had me a couple of semesters ago. If you've used MyLabs Plus in the past, then you want to hit I'm a returning student. And then it'll ask you what's the access code. And then it'll have on there, if you don't have access code, it's going to say use a free trial period. And that's like 14 days you can use for free. So I don't want anybody saying that you're waiting on money and you're doing this because you have free access. So you can go ahead and get started next week. When I start doing problems on the board, you can go home and do homework with 14-day trial access. So don't use that as an excuse. And then it'll have one option that says access code now or something like that, or just access code. And that way you punch that one and it'll take you to the screen where you type in your ATM card, credit card, or whatever, and that's how you get it online. It's not going to give you an access code. It's going to take you straight to the registration process, or right to, since you're buying it online, you don't have to type it in. So that's the 3 ways, again, that you can get online. And after, it's like any other thing. Some of you have done this, some of you haven't. If you haven't done it, then follow this sheet. It's right there. I sent it out on the 6th. If you just now added today, then you probably don't have it because you wasn't on the roll when I sent it. So what I would like to tell you to do is see me after class, or send me an email and I'll send it to you. I'll reply and attach it, and that way you'll get it. So that's that. Syllabi and the MyLabs Plus. What else did I send? Well, today I sent another handout. Sent several handouts, and this is information on me. I do this to all my classes, and it says attached are a few handouts that we will cover the first day, and along with the syllabus and the MyLabs Plus. Now, if you ever see WebAssign, WebAssign sucks. WebAssign is for our calculus classes, and that's not for y'all, so you worry about the MyLabs Plus. I have to say that because some people read this email and they won't look at the slash right there, and they think they got to get both. Slash means or, and that's why I cover this stuff, so you won't know. Anyway, here's a little bit about me. And the reason I do this is back a long time ago, I used to write, ask students to, I believe some of y'all saw the cards that the previous teacher did. I used to do that too. And I quit doing it because just like everything else, people complain about this and that, so I quit doing it. But I kept doing this because I'm a firm believer that to establish a comfortable environment in the classroom, teachers need to know about students and students need to know about teachers. But I'm not going to sit here and ask questions about you if you don't know anything about me. It's kind of like one of those teachers that you don't even know their name by the end of the class. That type, I'm the opposite of that. So that's a little bit about me. I was born and raised about 3 minutes away, West LA, which is West Lower Anderson, which is West Side, all right? And grew up around here. I used to ride dirt bikes around this place right here. Back a long time ago, there was a bunch of little scrubby pines around this place right here. There's still a few. And not nice pines, scrubby pines. Those are about 6 foot tall, and they don't grow any bigger. They just look like a big bush. But there was a bunch of hills in here and a bunch of mud puddles, and we used to ride our dirt bikes in this area right in here. So some of y'all may be old enough to remember that. I don't know if you remember that back here, but there was this piece of land holding the world together right here. But grew up right around here. I didn't go to Lakeside. I went to Southwood, the hood. I went to Southwood. So, and came to Westside. Graduated from Westside. So people say Lakeside's pretty tough. Lakeside ain't nothing compared to Southwood. Now, that was back in the day when it was more like a prison. They have windows there now. We didn't have windows. We had these louvers that all you could see was dirt down at the bottom of the, you couldn't see anything outside. You could see right down at the bottom. That's all you could see. All the exit doors were chained up. I don't know how they got by with that. Because now you can't chain up any doors but they would they would only leave like 3 or 4 exits open. And the others were chained up. I never did use the stairwell. If you ever been to Southwood, there's a stairwell in the cafeteria. I never knew what that was until my daughter went to Southwood, and I went to a little, what do you call it, a play there. She was in a play, and I was like, it's right beside the old chorus room right there, the little stairwell right there. And I was like, I always wondered where that went, because it was just 2 doors that were chained together. And it goes out to where the basketball courts were back there. It goes down there. But there was several doors, and I just thought that was just crazy. But now there's windows, and all the doors are not chained up, and it's just a miracle how it's advanced. But anyway, I came up through Southwood when it was not a pleasant experience, let me tell you. I think out of all my Varenus and Southwood and Westside, Southwood was pretty much the dark area of my school, because at least when I went to Westside, the doors wasn't chained. So, and I don't think they're chained now too. They didn't have windows. I'm pretty partial to windows not being covered up. So anyway, some of y'all that went to Southwood, you don't know how lucky you are to have windows. That was a strange school back then. But anyway, and that's a little bit about me. And another handout, and this is an important handout. This is my locator card. Do I follow it? Somewhat. I'm here most of the time when it says I'm supposed to be here for class. I'm very accessible, all right? I'm one of the few teachers that give you my home phone number and my cell number. Now, my home phone number, I disconnected it. I need to take it off, but I disconnected it because it's useless. All you get is dadgum, what do you call it? What do you call them? Robocalls, and you want a free trip. Yeah, whatever. So I quit wanting to get those. So now I just get calls through my cell phone. And there's my office hours. If you need me to come up here for office hours, all you got to do is call my cell and text me and say, I need to go over some stuff. But usually you don't have to do that, because of the way that I teach, and I don't have to do any paperwork in the classroom, I cover a whole lot better than other teachers. I cover material a whole lot better, because that frees up a lot of time. Because if you take a test, I give you a test, I let you take the test, that's one class. And then I hand back the test, and then I go over the test. That's 2 classes. You have 4 tests. 2 times 4 is 8. That's 8 days that I could be what? Teaching. And then I got to go through and check your homework. So make sure you wrote the answers back in the book down correctly. So I go through and I check every 15 minutes. And if I check y'all's homework and just look at it and put a check and do that twice a week, that's 30 minutes a week. 30 minutes times 14, it works out to about 3 days. Okay? That's 3 days I could be what? Teaching. So that's 11 days that I could be teaching. Now you take 11 days and you put in there teaching, then I can spend more time on each unit. Because there's only 3 units, 4 units in here. I try to cover 3 because the 4th one to me is useless. But anyway, the 3 units that I cover, I can spend more time on. And if I spend more time on it and more in depth, then that explains it better to you. And if it explains it better to you, the less office hours I have. And usually I don't have very many office hours. And like I say, a lot of Math 120 students are taking this, and the first 2 units, I doubt some of y'all that have had 120, I doubt, and some of you that's had Math 155, the last unit, you're already going to be used to some of the terms that you're going to be seeing in Unit 1 and Unit 2 in here. But if you do want office hours, the best day for office hours is Friday, of course. And you can see that I don't have classes. The Anderson campus, there's one thing the Pendleton campus hasn't taken away from us, and that is Friday classes. They cried and acted like a baby because we had 8:30 classes. And about the second year since they cried and threw a temper tantrum at the Pendleton campus, we had to change our schedule to 8 o'clock instead of 8:30. The reason we had 8:30 classes is because people have kids, people are parents, or take your sister to school or take your brother to school or whatever. And, you know, it's called lives. People have lives. And that's why the Anderson campus and the Easley campus at the time, when it opened, it said we had 8:30 classes instead of 8. And it worked out really well for the students, but the Pendleton campus complained because they didn't like us having to be there at 8:30. They wanted us to be there at 8 because they had to be there at 8. So they threw a temper tantrum and we had to change it to 8 o'clock. So usually when I teach an 8 o'clock class, I tell students be here at 8:30. And that's what I do. And that's what I do with my calculus class. And I've been doing it for a long time. But that's it. You can see I teach 103 and then I teach 155 this afternoon. And tomorrow I teach Calc 2 with college algebra in the afternoon. So that's what my class, I do tab 103 online, and y'all don't need to worry about that too much. You might see a 103 student come in here online that we've never seen before. And that's because some students may come in and sit in class. I don't turn that down. If a student wants to do that, they're welcome to do that. Now, attendance. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Let's go ahead and talk about that. I got a handout on that. I have all these handouts because that way I don't like to repeat myself. If you read the handouts, you pretty much know about my class, and you pretty much answer most of your questions about my class. Here's the handout that talks about class courtesies. And it's pretty much number 1 rule. Go ahead and read that number 1 rule to yourself right quick. If you don't, you shouldn't have this unless you just hang around the computer, because I sent it out this morning. So there's my number 1 rule. I treat students the way that I want to be treated. I've been teaching here since 1995. The first year I was part-time. And I think if you add that up, I think it's 21 years. You know how many people I've asked to leave my class? Out of 21 years, 3. 3 students in 21 years. I think that's a pretty good record, considering what these other teachers tell me. They tell me horror stories. Well, you know the old saying, you can attract more flies with honey than you can with vinegar? You ought to hear them on their first day of class. Oh my gosh, you think it was Paris Island, okay? And I'm not that way. And I just treat students with respect. And if you treat me with respect, everything will be hunky-dory, and we will have a good time in here, and nothing will go wrong. If you treat me with disrespect, I'm going to treat you the same. And I've never had to do that except for 3 times. And the first 2 was while I was at the Pendleton campus. So I've only had 1 here, and it was a girl, first time. And she just had issues. We'll just say that, okay? She didn't like anybody, I don't think. Cell phones. I have a cell phone. It goes off. There's 3 numbers that I will step out of class for. I got a daughter that's at College of Charleston. I got a son that's out here at McClures. It's called McClures for people that live around here. If you're not from around here, you call it McClures. Henry McClures started McClures School back in the 20s, about the early part of the 19th century. Built a 2-story schoolhouse out there on Mountain View Road. And he called himself Henry McClures. That's what he called himself. And the McClures that live around there, they call themselves McClures. They don't walk around and say, oh, I'm so-and-so McClures. But, transplants, they know more than everybody, right? So they come into the community and they change it from McClures to McClures. So now you can tell people that are from the community, they'll say McClures versus people that aren't from the community, they say McClures. The car's parked in the yard. Anyway, I don't know how I got, okay, McClures. And my mother, I give my mother my schedule, but my mother is kind of like Granny Clampett on the Beverly Hillbillies. She don't read it. So I might get a call from her telling me the cows are out, or she forgot to make an insurance payment or something. She'll call me in the middle of class. Most of the time when I get a call, that's where it's from. But I expect the same thing from you. If somebody calls you, you have kids, you have parents, you have brothers and sisters. Hopefully they're not in daycare, but if you do, and you have to answer a phone call, just go out in the hallway. It's no big deal. If your phone rings, I keep going. I'm not going to have a conniption and a cardio infarction, whatever it's called, if your phone goes off. Okay? This is part of 2016, 2017, okay? It's not 1962, all right? It's not like some of these teachers think, and they got a cell phone in their pocket, but they don't want you to have your cell phone. So I think it's ridiculous. So anyway, and mine, I try to set mine on buzzer or vibrate, before it comes in, but sometimes I don't. So if mine goes off, you don't have a conniption. If yours goes off, I don't have a conniption. Again, I don't have any problems with that. The only thing I have problems with is number 3. All right? If you come up to me and ask me a question, what would it be if I started texting somebody while you were asking me a question? That would be rude. Okay? What is it when you text while I'm talking up here? Now, if I'm talking about politics, or I'm talking about what was on the news last night, or a movie, or whatever, then that's not. You can text all you want to when I'm talking about junk, okay? And that's usually at the beginning of class. But when I start talking about math, and I turn around and you're texting, I'm going to call you out on it, because to me that's rude, and you would think it was rude if I was doing it to you. Okay? Now, if I give you a problem to do and you're working on it, I'm not going to sit up here and talk while you're doing it, but I might look and see if I got any messages or whatever while you're doing that. And same thing with me. If I'm up here, if I've got an email that I need to respond to quickly, and I need to do that at the beginning of the class, and I'm up here doing something, that's okay. You do what you need to do. But as soon as I start talking about math, that is the same thing as you asking me a question. And just remember that if you were asking me a question up here after class or during class, and I was texting in the middle, what would you feel? And that's what I feel when I'm teaching. Then I turn around and you're texting. Okay? So just try to watch that and try to be respectful. Okay, this is not an online class. Now, even though the online class is 103, this class right here is what you call a conventional class. It's an in-class class or a one-on-one class. In other words, I see you. And But it's a hybrid class. The original hybrid class back in 2007, 2006, the original hybrid class was the way that I teach. In other words, all the tests and all the homework are online. And the student works on the tests and works on the homework online, and that leaves the teacher with all the classroom time to do what? Teach. That was the original hybrid class. But administrators got a hold of it and said, well, why can't we, if it ain't broke, let's fix it. Or if it ain't broke, we need to do something to it. So they took a hybrid class and they said, well, why don't we let them meet just one day a week, and that way the Wednesday that's supposed to be, we could put another class in there. And that's what they did, and they screwed it up pretty much. And so when I tell you that this is a hybrid class, it is. It's the original hybrid class, not what they're doing hybrid now, where Monday and Wednesday class is not a Monday and Wednesday class. You meet on Monday, and then on Wednesday you work on the computer. You stay at home and work on the computer, or you go down to the lab and work on the computer. That's a administrative hybrid class. So they could put another class on Wednesday. So anyway, this is a hybrid class, and the original hybrid. So I do everything online. They fuss at me because after we came up with the hybrid class, about 2 or 3 years later, we get administrators going, well, we shouldn't give tests online. We need to give tests in class. So then they said, okay, you can do homework online, but you need to do class. And so I said, okay, whatever. And I still give online tests. I probably get in trouble for it, but it's stupid. Anyway, attendance policy. Again, Tri-County Tech has, well, this is more of the federal government, because in the last 5 years, the federal government is really cracking down on the 1% of 1% of 1% that's embezzling money through financial aid. Out of all the students that we have at Tri-County Tech, we may have one that's trying to milk the system on financial aid. In other words, they sign up for 21 hours or 19 hours or 18 hours of classes, and they get the check, and they go to one class or however they're supposed to milk the system. I don't even know how they're supposed to do it. And then they get their check, and then they skedaddle. Well, the one person that does that, or the two people that do it out of thousands of students, we're going to crack down on them. Federal government is really going to crack down on the 1% of 1% of 1%. We don't have anything else in the United States to worry about. We got to crack down on the 1% of 1% of 1%. So federal financial aid said teachers need to take attendance, no matter if they're online or in class. And Tri-County Tech said, yes, sir, Uncle Sam. And now we have to take attendance on every single class. So you have to cross the threshold of that door for me to count you here. You get it? Or you can come in on Skype. Okay? And I have to add you. If you have like a 24-hour, 48-hour virus and you don't feel like coming, you can come in on Skype, or you can just watch the video. A lot of people just watch the video, but I can't give you a present for watching the video. So I can only give you a present for walking across the threshold. Now, you may go back and go home and do something, that's fine, but I still give you a here. Or Skype in. And Skyping in, if you want to have an attendance, I'm not going to drop anybody. The only way that I will drop you is if I get a request from you or your family to drop you, or if I get a request from student records to drop you, or financial aid, or from Tri-County Technical College. That's the only 4 ways I drop you. I'm not going to sit here and say, let's see, well, I don't like Miss Bennett. I don't know her, but I don't like her. So she's going to miss the 3rd day, and as soon as she missed the 3rd day, I'm going to get her out of here. I got a whole lot more things to worry about than trying to get rid of Miss Bennett, because I don't like her. First of all, I like everybody, okay? Even though some people are hard to like, or some people are weird, okay? I still like everybody. I don't hate anybody, but I'm not going to drop you just because you had 2.5 days and 2 hours. If you miss another class, that'll make 2.5 days, 3 days, and I can throw you out of class. But some teachers do that. I don't. So just cross the threshold or Skype in, and you get attendance. You get a hear. The rest of the stuff you can read. Those are the highlights of my class. And we'll talk about online tests and online homework. That's Wednesday when we go over My Labs Plus. Okay? We'll talk about all that. If you want to look and see what you're going to be graded on, that's the other worksheet right here. Here are things you will be graded on. And this is the second most important worksheet in your batch of worksheets. And if you've got it, great. If you don't, then look over it right quick. It says homework is online. I open the homework whenever I start it. If I start Unit 1 and we go over Chapter 5, then that afternoon I'll put a start date and an ending date on Chapter 5. Okay, if you don't have access to any homework when you go home today and get on My Labs Plus, then you don't need to worry about it. The only assignment I've given you right now is to read. That doesn't mean do homework, it means read. Now if it's open, go ahead and do it. No big deal. Tests are online. I will give you 2 chances to take the test. Sometimes I give you 3. Why? Because y'all have 15,000 excuses. That's why. My house burnt down and got struck by lightning and went in flood and was in a tornado. All that happened at one time. My grandmother died 6 times. Y'all have them, let me tell you. I watch horror movies. I love horror movies. I mean, I even watch old horror movies back in the 70s on Chill Station. I love them. And some of y'all have those lives, okay? You ever seen the commercial, the Geico commercial, where the 4 people are running away from the guy with the chainsaw, and they can get into the running car and leave, or they can run into the building with all the chainsaws hanging in it? What do? They go to the that's the horror movie, you know. They go to the chainsaw, they run into the barn with all the sharp objects hanging off the ceiling, instead of going and getting in the car and taking off. Wouldn't be a horror movie if they did that. But anyway, some of y'all have the excuses of the horror movies. You know, Jason was chasing me through the house, you know, and all this got struck by lightning. And listen, I have heard some of the biggest lies that I've ever heard in my lifetime here at Tri-County Tech. And I've had students that have had 7 or 8 grandmothers because they've all died in different semesters. The same student has had like 7 dead grandmothers. Now, I can understand having 2 or 4 grandmothers, but 7 or 8, it gets a little hectic after that. But that student was just a chronic liar, okay? So they made up stuff all the time. I give you 7 to 10 days to take the test. I usually give you a week, because I usually say, okay, today the test is going to start on the 9th, and we're going to end it on the 16th. And some of y'all that's had me before can attest to that. That's the way I do it. I go over the test in class on the board, and then I say, okay, we're going to open this test up on the 6th, and we're going to close it on the 16th. And then I go into the homework, and I say, okay, since the test starts on today, which is the 9th, I'm going to set the homework for the 12th. Okay, that's the way I do things. So these Hammies, you ever seen Hammy on, what's the name of that cartoon? Over the Hedge. Okay, my son and daughter, they, besides SpongeBob, they love Over the Hedge. And Hammy is if you've never seen Hammy, there's a UPS skit on the old, what was it, Fridays or SCTV. There was the UPS guy that came in and was jumping around, and Hammy does the same thing. That's those students that, when's the test, when's the test, when's the test, when's the homework due, when's the homework due? Have you ever seen one of those students first day of class? Oh my gosh, that is a teacher's worst nightmare. When's test? When's test? Shut up. Get out of here. Okay? You don't need to worry about that in my class. Okay? Miss Bennett, you've had me. Miss Lowry's had me. You've had me. You've had me. You've had me. Anybody else? You've had me. You've had me. What class were you in?
120, and it was back in 2012.
Whew.
I've had a baby.
Yeah, well, she was, what, 2014? Yes, and we won't talk about some of the other people in here. Back in, she was a student when I first started.
Yes, I was.
Yes, and I was part-time. Anyway, to make a long story short, what? Oh, well, thank you. And I'm the opposite of the teacher that's your worst nightmare. Now, I may not get along with you, okay? there may be a personality conflict, but I'll still treat you fair, okay? I don't know. You were in my 120? Or, okay.
It was like,
8 o'clock. Oh my gosh, I hated that class.
it was probably like 80% high school.
Oh my gosh. I'm not going to have that too much in the Calc 2 class. Whew, that was awful. I really, there's some high school students that are good, but we had that little clique in the back corner back there, and I'm glad they're on to some of the other things. But they were good kids. They were just out of high school. They were out of high school. They were in a college setting, and they got to make that transition. And it takes a couple of semesters to make that transition, and a couple of very asinine teachers. And I'm not an asinine teacher. So anyway, you take the test on your time, not class time, multiple choice and open answer, and you can review and print out the test after you have taken it. I'll show you how to do that on Course Compass. When I say Course Compass, My Labs Plus the same thing. My Math Lab, those are the three names for My Labs Plus. You'll have 4 tests, or 3, pretty much 3 tests. Now, let me explain a little bit about how it says down here, your homework will count 20%. Your final exam will count 20%. And your unit test will count what? 60%. What I tell students, until the last 2 weeks of class, just take your 2 or 3 tests, add them up and divide by, your old average, and that's pretty much what you got in the class. Because your homework is not going to be ascertained until the last week of class. Because I'm not going to grade you on homework 3 weeks into the class. All right? The homework grade in My Labs Plus is cumulative. So after the last day of class, that's when your homework grade will be given to you. So just write it off until the last week of class, and it will, as you go, it will count what you've done. Like if you've done Unit 1 and you made 100 on Unit 1, it will count 100 for that Unit 1. But what the problem is, some of y'all skip some sections. And some of you don't really want to work it because the problems are too long or whatever, and there's like 10 problems in that homework section, and you just say, bump it. I don't want to do that. Well, see, that 0 will affect your homework grade. It's not going to affect it much because it's only one homework session. But you can't count it as 100 in your brain because you've got a 0 in there because you skipped a section. Anything you skip and I don't clear, now if I don't cover it, I'm not going to give it to you and I'll omit it. Okay? But anything you skip and it's in there, it's going to be a 0 that last day of class when I flip the zeros on. It's going to put a 0 in there and that's going to affect your grade. You need to realize that because I get so many students after the last day of class, and they say, I had a 92 and now it's dropped down to 88. You didn't do a whole chapter of homework, and it put in zeros. So just because, it's kind of like, you ever have somebody that throws away the bills and they think they're going to go away because they throw them away? That ain't the way things work. If you skip a chapter of homework, it's not going to stay 100 on your homework grade. All right, it's going to have 100, and it's going to have 5 or 6 zeros in there, And then it's going to drop that 100 down to a 92 or whatever. And that's going to affect your grade because 20% is that cumulative homework grade. So please make sure you make a mental note of that. All right? And that's the things that you'll be graded on with the online test as well as the homework. And then the final exam, I'll give you 2 chances to take it. And it takes, in all of my tests, it takes the greater of the what? Of the tries that you did. So if you make a 98 on the first test, the first try, and there's 2 other tries, do you need to take the 2 other tries? No. 98, 0, and 0. What's the highest grade? 98. It's going to take the 98. Please don't write me an email that says, I took the first try and I made a 98. Do I need to take the other 2 tries? Because I'm not going to respond to you. If I don't respond to you, that means I've already covered it and you didn't what? I didn't listen. You didn't listen. I despise, I loathe to have to repeat myself. Okay? I can't stand it. All right? I guess that's why I don't like bureaucrats. All right? Because they do the same thing 15 times to justify their job. Okay? That's why I don't like it. And I don't like to repeat myself. So if you've got a question about any of this stuff, then you need to go back to the video that I post on YouTube, and it's called First Day, and you need to look over it. If you don't see this one, then go to my other First Days on Math 103 or Math 22, because this is a very rehearsed speech I give. Some of y'all recognize it from last semester or the semester before. And you know what? It's worked pretty good. It's worked very well in the last 15 years. Everything that I do has worked very well. And if it ain't broke, I don't fix it. Okay? All right? So, any questions so far on anything having to do with the classroom or homework or anything like that? Anybody got any questions so far? Nope. Okay. I'm trying to think of, okay, I've covered the schedule. Okay, let's cover something else. I'm trying to cover anything that you have questions on, and this is something that you'll have questions on. Dates. Dates, write this down. If you want dates for this semester, you go to Message Center, and then go down here to where it says Academic Calendars. Write that down. I am the campus, I'll tell you right now, on this campus, probably the Pendleton campus, I'm one of the worst people to ask about a date. All right? I am the worst because in the real world out there, dates mess me up. All right? If you ask me what the day is, I have to look it on my phone or I have to look, and dates are my weaknesses. I do not, when I write a check, I have to ask people what the date is. All right? Some of y'all have weaknesses like that. You can't remember a phone number or you can't, balance your checkbook. My weakness is dates. I don't keep up with dates at all. And it's very hard for me. If it wasn't for the calendar in my phone, I would be in trouble. Okay? And the little thing on the front that has the date and the day, because that's just one of my weaknesses. I don't keep up with it. And I have to really say to myself 3 or 4 times a day, 1/9/17. I have to say that so I can remember what day it is. Okay? Some of y'all can't tell you left from your right real quick. My sister is like that. But my weakness is dates. So if you're one of those people that have date problems, academic calendar, pick the semester you're on, spring 2017, sorry. And that's, don't ask. It's the physical year, not the calendar year. Just don't even worry about it. It's a Tri-County Tech thing. And there they are. Your section A, first day of class, January 9th. You need to print this out and you need to put the important dates in your phone calendar or your pamphlet calendar or your booklet calendar. What's the date? Well, the 16th. That's next Monday, isn't it? Yeah. You don't need to come to class. Will there be some DAs up here? Yep. There'll be some DAs. They'll come to an empty parking lot. They'll come to a locked building, okay? And then they'll ask the security guard, "We don't have any classes today." Nope, everybody disappeared into a time rift, except for me and you. Okay? You have these people. All right, last day to drop classes without record is January 13th, which is Friday. You can drop this class. Oh, that teacher sucks. I'm going to drop that class, and there'll be no record of it on your transcript. Okay? Exams. Right here, this is the test question. Section A. When is exams? That's a test question right there. I put it on all my tests. Some of you know what I'm talking about. There's a bonus. I got about 10 questions on each test, and they're the same questions every single test. One of them says, when is final exams? And there it is, April 27th through the 3rd. Last day of class, that's a test question. April 26th. The last day to drop classes. Where is that? That's somewhere in here. I can't see it right now. Right here. March 9th. Now, what does that mean? That's the last day for you to drop a class with a what? W. Or unless you're from around here, W. There's two ways to pronounce W. W and W. Okay? Make sure, because people that are sophisticated on TV, they don't say W, because that means they're from the South and they're redneck and ignorant and racist and all that stuff. Okay, so they say W, 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 W. Some of y'all are Clemson fans. Watch the TV tonight. There's some announcers that won't say Clemson. You know, Clemson, C-L-E-M-P-S-I-N, Clemson. They won't say Clemson because they're associated with us rednecks. So they go out of their way to pronounce it Clemson. Listen, you got to listen. They will not say Clemson. They will say Clemson. Here we are in Clemson, South Carolina. And everybody's looking at them like, what? Clemson? Watch, listen tonight. Now, there's one announcer, he says Clemson. But he's from Tennessee, so he's allowed to say Clemson. But the other guy, no, I'm not going to be associated with them rednecks. They say Clemson. They say Clemson. I'm not going to be associated with them people. So I'm going to say Clemson and look like a fool and sound like a fool. But anyway, if you want to drop with a W or a W, that's the last day to do it. After that, it's going to be a withdrawal with whatever grades you have, or I don't know, but that's the last day to withdraw with a W. Okay. Last day of class. Oh, okay. Here is another date that you need to. Hold on, I'm trying to find it. It's called pre-registration. Summer, fall, advising for currently enrolled students, right here. February 20th to March 10th. That is the time we call pre-advising. That is when you go by and sign up or go to Starfish, and I'll do this in class on that February 20th or whenever. I will go in and show you how to, and you go by and you talk to your advisor, and they open up your registration process. They unlock it so you can go in and register on the 10th. Now, the reason this is important is because the DAs, they aren't going to go by and see their instructor, or their advisor. And they're going to wait till March the 9th, and they can't find their instructor. Well, why? Why is that? Because the instructor is in classes, or the instructor is at a meeting, or whatever, and they're going to get mad because at 8 o'clock on March 10th, what's going to open up? Registration. And they can't register. Well, they had a month to do it. So don't be one of those people that are running around scrambling with your head, chicken with your head cut off, trying to get pre-enrolled or trying to get access to register, and you've had a month to do it. So don't be one of those people. Those are important dates. Make sure you know how to get there. Again, it is Message Center, and go down to the middle and hit whatever it was, academic calendar. Let me show you one more thing, and that is under Get Connected. Log into Starfish. That's where you go and find your advisors during pre-registration. That's where you find your advisors' times. Okay? Questions on that? And I'll go over that more that on the 20th of February, whenever that says that starts. Okay? All right, who's got any questions? No questions? I covered everything so well that y'all don't have any questions.
Who's gonna win tonight, Hubert?
You don't want me to tell you who's going to win. Alabama's going to win.
Of course, they got all the money.
Well, they're SEC, and SEC's a strong conference. And I hate to tell it, and I'll be honest with you, I'm going to shut this off right quick because I don't want everybody fussing at me. Let's see, how do I shut this off?